Well, we're getting closer and closer every single day to the North American restart of cruises. So with that being said, let's take a look at the ship deployments for Norwegian Cruise Line for the year of 2022, because these cruises are coming up fast. What's going on, everybody? It's Brandon back again. This time not cruise news, but we do have a 2022 ship deployment video. If you want to follow along these videos, you want to stay up to date with the latest of cruise news or see what cruise ships are going where in the year of 2022 as we roll out these deployment videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and hit that notification bell to be notified every time we upload a brand new video. These are some of my most popular videos last year in 2020 when we did the 2021 ship deployment videos, so I definitely want to do this again and let you guys know what ships in the Norwegian fleet are going to be going and where they're going to go and sailing out of in the year of 2022. Especially since we are halfway through the year, it is definitely about time to start looking at some of those cruises. So what we'll do is we're going to start all the way at our newest ship in the Norwegian Cruise Line fleet, and we'll work our way all the way down to the oldest. So with that said, we have the very first Project Leonardo ship from Norwegian Cruise Line. We have the Norwegian Prima. It's going to be making her debut in August of 2022. On August 17th, she's going to make her maiden voyage. She's going to kick off out of Amsterdam and make an 8-day sailing in Northern Europe, and she's going to kick off her like little mini season or like a couple sailings out of Northern Europe before she makes her way from Southampton over to New York for her first transatlantic as she heads over to the United States. On September 23rd, she's going to make a 12-day transatlantic cruise from Southampton over to New York City. During that transatlantic cruise, she is going to be visiting a few places in Northern Europe and Iceland on her way over. So that's really exciting. And I think one or two stops in Canada as well, so that's really cool. Once she arrives there, it looks like there's going to be a few media days because there was a few days in between her arrival in New York City and her first cruise out of New York City. Because she arrives in New York City on the 5th of October of 2022, and she will make her first sailing out of New York on October 10th. So it looks like they've got a couple days in between there. I'm guessing media events because that's normally what Norwegian does whenever they bring a new ship in. On the 10th of October, though, she is going to make a quick 5-night sailing from New York City over to Bermuda, over to the Royal Naval Dockyard, which is the main cruise port over there in Bermuda. When she returns, she's going to make a 11-day Southern Caribbean sailing that's going to go from New York City over to Galveston, Texas. This is one of the first times ever, at least if it's not first time ever, it's going to be the first time in a very long time that they've ever had a ship in Galveston. But it is not permanent. But I think it is kind of testing the waters for maybe a future cruise ship. But as soon as she gets to Galveston, she's basically going to go from Galveston, do another long cruise, and end in Miami. When she arrives in Miami, she's going to do several 7-night itineraries from the port of Miami, Eastern and Western Caribbean. Just kind of show off the ship a little bit in Miami. And that's one really neat thing about this ship, is basically when they're bringing the ship in, they're taking it to several different ports. Basically kind of showing off the ship in different parts of not only the United States, but I guess they are also doing a few stops over in Northern Europe as well, so it's really, really neat. After a couple sailings out of Miami, she's going to make her way up to Port Canaveral, which will be her home. She's going to arrive on December 11th and make a quick 5-night sailing to get her on schedule. When she returns from that 5-night sailing, she's going to start up her normal 7-night itineraries from Port Canaveral, which I am actually booked on the first one. I just happened to end up being that way. On December 16th, of 2022, she is going to sail her first 7-day voyage out of Port Canaveral, and she will pretty much continue on there through March. But so basically for the end of the year, she's going to wrap up in her home of Port Canaveral. She's mostly going to do 7-day sailing, and then to ring in the new year, she is going to have a 9-night sailing that will lead her from 2022 into 2023. She will be the newest ship, and she is the very first ship in the Project Leonardo class that is going to be rolled out over the next couple of years, which will lead us into our next ship, the Norwegian Encore. It made her debut in late 2019, so when you factor out the shutdown, she is almost a brand new ship. She's actually going to be the first ship for Norwegian Cruise Line to get up and running this year after the restart in 2021. She's going to be sailing out of Alaska. But to start out 2022, she's going to be sailing from Miami. She's going to make Eastern Caribbean sailings to Great Stirrup Cay, Tortola, St. Thomas, and Puerto Plata, which is like a new Dominican Republic stop for the cruise lines. And this is something really neat to me. On April 17th, she is going to make a sailing, or a Panama Canal sailing, from Miami over to the West Coast. They've actually got 3 different options you can pick from whenever you're choosing these Panama Canal cruises. So the first one's going to be a 15-day Panama Canal cruise from Miami to Los Angeles, visiting Colombia, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Puerto Vallarta, and Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and then before she arrives in Los Angeles. But the second option is you could do basically the exact same itinerary, basically. The only difference is whenever you go from Miami to LA, you stay on in LA, and you'll have a couple more days for an 18-day sailing from Miami to San Francisco instead. So basically, you're gonna, instead of getting off in Los Angeles, you're gonna get off in San Francisco. And so the third option for this cruise is that a 21-day sailing, and basically instead of getting off in San Francisco, you're gonna take her all the way up into Seattle. The only difference is she is gonna make a stop in Victoria in Canada, in British Columbia, before she returns into Seattle, because that's going to be like, I think that has to do with the Passenger Vessel Service Act, because she's going between, people are getting off, and then I don't think anybody's getting on in between, but she is going to go from San Francisco up to Seattle. So they're going to make a quick stop real quick in Victoria and then head into Seattle. After her long journey over to the West Coast, or over into Seattle, on May 8th, she's going to start her Alaska cruise season, where she's going to visit Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway, and Victoria. Those are going to be her normal 7-night itineraries out of the port of Seattle over to Alaska. On October 23rd, she's going to make another 21-day sailing. I didn't see the options for this one, so maybe it's just a straight 21 days instead of having more people get on, which I guess makes more sense, instead of having people get on in different ports throughout the cruise. But she's going to make another 21-day sailing from Seattle over into the port of Miami. Following her return into the port of Miami, she's going to resume her normal 7-night Eastern Caribbean itineraries from there. And she will also have one 5-night itinerary the week before Christmas, followed by an 11-night cruise that is actually going to take them through Christmas and New Year's all in one cruise, which is really neat. So that will finish out the year of 2022 for the Norwegian Encore, as she does an 11-night cruise that will take them into 2023. Next up on our list, we have the Norwegian Bliss, one of my personal favorite ships of all time. I absolutely love the Norwegian Bliss. She will be sailing out of Los Angeles, doing Mexican Riviera cruises to start out the year. She'll be doing 7-night cruises with the occasional 5-night that goes to Ensenada and Cabo San Lucas. And then early in the year, she's going to make a 14-night sailing from Los Angeles to Miami, and then basically turn around and go right back for a 16-day cruise from Miami to LA. It's almost their way of doing like a full canal transit without still relocating the ship completely. So it's really, really neat that they do something like that. And as the spring season wraps up, she's going to make a sailing for 5 nights from Los Angeles up to Seattle, where she's going to start the Alaska cruise season. Norwegian Bliss is specifically built for Alaska, and that is what her artwork on board is themed after, is Alaska with all the whales. She's got 2 sailings in April that go to Juneau, Skagway, Ketchikan, and Victoria. And then her main 7-night itineraries for Alaska will be Ketchikan, Skagway, Icy Strait, and then into Victoria. And these are all out of the port of Seattle. After the season wraps up in Alaska, she's going to make her way back down to LA for October, where she's going to continue those 5- and 7-night cruises. And then she's also going to do one more time that basically the full canal transit over to Miami. The only difference here is by the time she gets over to Miami, it will pretty much be the end of the year. She's going to do a couple cruises out of Miami. So she is going to end the year over in Miami. Next up, we have the very first ship that ever had a go-kart track on board. We have the Norwegian Joy, continuing her service here in the United States and over here in North America. She's going to start out the year with mostly 7-night itineraries, Western Caribbean. In late April, she's going to make her way up to New York City and be sailing out of New York City. She's going to make a few 5-night Bermuda cruises, and then mostly her normal 7-night itineraries that visit Bermuda from New York City. Those 7-night itineraries will basically go from New York, arrive in Bermuda. She will basically spend about half a day, and then a full day, and then a third day, which is about another half a day basically, in Bermuda, and then she will return over to New York City to start her next cruise. She does have a few 9-night sailings that do New York City, Norfolk, Port Canaveral, Great Stirrup Key, and over into Bermuda. So it's kind of like down the coast and then way out there to Bermuda and then back, which is a really cool itinerary actually. I'd really like to do that. As we get into September and October for the Norwegian Joy, she's going to start doing a few Canada, New England cruises. And then in December, she's going to make a 14-day Panama Canal cruise that will go from Port Canaveral. But she's going to leave from Port Canaveral, a 14-day sailing, Port Canaveral to the port of Los Angeles. So basically when the Bliss, her sister ship, is heading over to do Miami, they're basically going to cross paths, what it seems like, as they transit the Panama Canal, which actually might be really cool if they do it at the same time, but I doubt that's actually the case. She's going to finish out the year in 2022 from Los Angeles, sailing to San Diego, which is really interesting that they're putting that as a port stop, Cabo San Lucas, Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, and Ensenada. And the first ship in the Breakaway Plus class, we have the Norwegian Escape, one of the most beloved ships in the entire Norwegian Cruise Line fleet. She's going to start out the year with a series of 5 and 7 night cruises from Port Canaveral. For the Norwegian Escape, April, she's going to head up there into New York City and make a 16-night transatlantic voyage. And from May all the way until November, she's going to make 7 to 10 night sailings to the Mediterranean. In November, she is going to make a 16-day sailing all the way from Rome all the way back into New York City to bring back into the winter season over here in the United States. And then once she arrives back in the United States, she is going to make her way back down to Port Canaveral and basically finish out the year doing exactly what she did. And she's basically going to be part of the welcome party for the Norwegian Prima that will be arriving right around the same time. And to the Norwegian Getaway, she's going to be making 5 and 9 night sailings from the Port of Miami. And then in February, she's going to head up to New York City and do a couple Bahamas cruises from there and a few Bermuda cruises when it gets to April. And in late April, she's going to do a 14-night sailing from New York City over into England. She's basically going to spend the summer over in England and Northern Europe doing Baltic cruises, basically, Northern European cruises. Those will range from 9 to 10 nights apiece. November 14th, she's going to make a 13-day sailing from London over into Rome and over in Italy. And then on November 27th, so basically I believe when she arrives, she's going to make a sailing from Rome over into New York City and come back over into the United States. Norwegian Getaway is going to finish out the year doing 5 and 8 night Bermuda cruises from New York City. And to Getaway's sister, the Norwegian Breakaway, the first in the class for the Breakaway class, makes sense. Breakaway is going to be doing 7-night itineraries to Cozumel, Harvest Key, Roatan, and Costa Maya, the 7-night Western itineraries, basically. In late April, she is going to move over to the Port of Miami real quick. And when she is there, she is going to make a couple quick Eastern and Western 7-night itineraries. And then in the month of August, she is actually going to move up to New York City, where she's going to be doing some Canada-New England cruises out of New York City. So Breakaway is going to be returning to New York City again. She is going to be one of the first ships up and running for Norwegian. She's going to be the third ship up and running this year and going to be returning to her original home of New York City later this year in 2021 as well. On November 6th, she is going to make a 14-day sailing from New York City all the way back into her home of New Orleans now. When she arrives back in New Orleans, she is going to continue her 7-night cruises like normal with a few 5 and 9-night cruises thrown in there as well. And to the oddball of the fleet is what I like to call it, the Norwegian Epic. She's going to be doing 6 and 7-night cruises from San Juan to start out the year. On April 7th, she's going to make a 15-day sailing from New York City over to Barcelona. I have no idea why they're going up to New York City for that transatlantic, because the way the lifeboats are configured on that ship, she does not fit. So basically when she goes into New York City, and this is why she's only been there maybe a handful of times, they have to drop like all the lifeboats basically so that she would fit against the piers. So it's very, very rare occasion that the Epic is even in New York City. So it can be very interesting to see that. And like I said, it's only been a handful of times she's ever even visited New York City. From May all the way until September, she's going to do 5, 6, and 7-night cruises that go between Barcelona and Rome. She's got an 11-night cruise in October, and then the month of November was for some reason grayed out on the website. So maybe they're planning a dry dock, even though I think she just had one recently. I'm not really sure what they're doing for the month of November, if they're doing anything at all for the Norwegian Epic. And on December 4th, she's going to make a 12-night sailing from London over to New York City. Again, why they're doing that, I have no idea. But they're moving it over into New York City. And then once she arrives there, she's going to make her way down to San Juan. And once she arrives in San Juan, she's going to pretty much wrap up the year doing exactly what she was doing to start out the year. Next on our list, we have the Norwegian Jade. This is one of the most interesting and one of the coolest itineraries or ship deployments basically that we're going to cover the entire video. So she's going to start out the year, pretty like her first sailing of the year basically is going to be a 12-night voyage from South Africa that ends all the way up in Dubai. And then once she arrives in Dubai, she's going to make an 18-day sailing that goes from Dubai all the way to Athens. So she's going to arrive in Athens around early to mid-March or so, and then from there she will pretty much be home ported in Athens, Greece for the pretty much the summer-fall season of 2022, where she'll do a series of 7 and 11-night cruises out of Athens. Kind of like Epic, she is pretty much going to wrap up the year doing exactly what she was doing, except in this case, she's going to go from Athens, do the 18 days to Dubai, and then she will do the 12 days from Dubai all the way to Cape Town, South Africa. So really, really neat cruises if you want to go on her in the beginning or ending of the years. Those would be some cruises of a lifetime to do on board the Norwegian Jade next year in the beginning and end of the years, as well as some of the Greek Isle cruises that she's going to do as well during most of the year. Next up, we have the Norwegian Gem. She's going to start out doing 7 and 10 night Bahamas and Caribbean cruises from New York City. On April 24th, she is going to make a 15-night sailing from New York City over into Rome. And from May all the way until November, she's going to be doing 5 and 11-night cruises between Venice and Rome. On December 8th, she's going to make a 14-night transatlantic over into New York City. And by the time she gets there, she's going to have one last 11-day cruise from New York City to the Bahamas and Caribbean. And we'll wrap up the year of 2022 for the Norwegian Gem. Enter her sister ship, the Norwegian Pearl. She's going to start out the year, and through the month of March, she'll be doing 3, 5, and 11-night cruises from the Port of Miami. And then in April, she's going to head up to the Port of Boston, where she's going to be doing Canada-New England cruises all the way through the month of November. On November 11th, she's going to make one quick and one final 4-night sailing from Boston. And then she'll head back down to Miami where she started out, but in this case, she'll be doing 11 and 12-night cruises to wrap up the year. Norwegian Jewels got a very interesting year. She's going to start out in Panama. In Panama, she's going to be doing 8 to 12-night cruises from there. And in the month of April, she's going to make her way up through the Panama Canal and up the west coast, basically, and over into Vancouver. She's going to start her Alaska cruise season. The cool thing about Norwegian Jewel is that the Alaska cruise season for her, most ships out of Alaska do the 7-night round-trip itineraries, but for Norwegian Jewel, she's going to do 7 nights from Vancouver up to Seward, Alaska. And then once she gets up there, it'll end a cruise, but obviously you have the choice of going back to back, which is usually recommended for what she's doing. Once she gets up there, she's going to go from Seward all the way back down 7 more days into Vancouver. So basically, it's 7-night one-way trips, but you could turn it into back-to-back round trip 14 days to Alaska. And they say that's one of the best ways to see Alaska because you go to so many more stops, which, you just don't have the time or ability to get to some of these places with just a 7-night round trip itinerary. In October, she is going to make one final round trip from Vancouver before she heads back down to Panama again and wrap up the year down there. Part of America, she's been doing the same thing pretty much ever since she came out, and she's going to continue doing that same thing for a very long time. I really have no idea how long it's going to be. But she's going to be obviously built for the Hawaiian Islands, so she is going to be circling the Hawaiian Islands basically the entire year. We have Norwegian Dawn doing 5 all the way up to 14-night cruises out of the port of Tampa from January all the way up until March. She's going to make her way across and do a transatlantic cruise, and from May to June, she is going to be doing British Isle cruises. In July and August, she's going to be doing Baltic cruises, and then back over and doing British Isle cruises for the month of September. And then from there, she's going to make her way back over across the Atlantic into the Port of Tampa, again doing those 5 to 14-night sailings out of the Port of Tampa. Another really exciting one like the Norwegian Jade, we have the Norwegian Star is going to be doing Antarctic cruises to start out the year, which will be summer down there in Antarctica. So she'll be going between there and South America to begin the year in January and February. In March, she's going to make a transatlantic voyage from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil all the way over into Barcelona, Spain. April and May, Norwegian Star is going to be doing the Mediterranean cruises. And then she will make her way up and do Northern European cruises and cruises into Iceland for June, July, and August. Around September, she's going to make her way back across the Atlantic into Rio and is basically going to end out the year doing South America cruises like she kind of started out with, but I didn't see any Antarctic cruises to wrap up the year. So it looks like that's just a January, February thing, which with being Antarctica, I'm sure that's a very, very small window of time that you're able to do any sort of cruises out of there. All right, and with our last 3 ships, first we have the Norwegian Sun. For the first time, Norwegian Sun is going to be sailing out of Asia. January and February, she's going to be sailing from Hong Kong, Singapore, and Bangkok. And for the months of April and May, she's going to make her way up to Tokyo, doing round-trip sailings out of there. And then she will make her way over to Seattle for an Alaska cruise season over in North America. From Seattle, she's going to do round-trip sailings, going from 5, 7, and 9-night cruises round-trip out of Seattle for the Alaska cruise season. On October 11th, she's going to make a 16-day sailing from Seattle all the way into Tokyo to do a few sailings out of Tokyo. And then to wrap up the year, she's going to make her way an 11-night sailing from Tokyo, ending in Singapore. Next up, we have her sister ship, the Norwegian Sky, is mostly going to be doing her normal 3 and 4 night cruises out of the port of Miami, just sailing to the Bahamas, Key West, and places like that. But throughout the year, she does have a few 5 and 9 night cruises that are just kind of thrown in there randomly. And in August and in November, she does have a few 7-night sailings, Eastern and Western Caribbean, that are just kind of thrown in there randomly as well. But overall, for the most part, Norwegian Sky is going to be doing 3 and 4 night cruises out of the port of Miami as usual. And last but certainly not least, we do have the Norwegian Spirit is going to be doing quite an adventurous year as well. She's going to begin the year doing 10 to 14 night cruises. They start out going from Sydney, Australia, some go over to New Zealand, and a couple actually go over into Indonesia as well. In May, she is going to make her way from Sydney all the way up into Seattle, where she's going to sail the Alaska season. So Norwegian Cruise Line actually has a lot of ships sailing to Alaska next year in 2022. They've got the Norwegian Spirit, the Norwegian Encore, the Norwegian Bliss, the Jewel, and the Sun. So a total of 5 ships, 4 ships sailing from Seattle and 1 sailing to out of Vancouver. So a total of 5 ships sailing to Alaska for Norwegian Cruise Line next year in 2022. She's going to spend that summer season in Alaska doing 7-night itineraries from Seattle, round trip. She will do a single 9-night itinerary in September. And once she finishes that 9-night itinerary, she is going to make her way all the way back down into Australia to wrap up the year in December. Alright, so that's going to be all for the Norwegian Cruise Line ship deployments for the year of 2022. Let me know which one you're most excited for down below. Are you booked on any of these? Are you booked on Norwegian Prima that launches next year? I know I am, and I'm really excited for it. So let me know which one of these sailings you're most excited for. Which one of these would be like a bucket list cruise for you. I know a couple of these are definitely some bucket list cruises on here. But anyways, let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you do want to check out Carnival Cruise Line ship deployment video for 2022, I will link that in the end card that you will see in just a few seconds here. And I will have Royal Caribbean's ship deployment video for 2022 out in the next maybe week or so. And I plan on doing like Disney Cruise Line, Celebrity, MSC. So if you have any suggestions of what cruise lines you'd like to see ship deployment videos for, like this one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like. It lets YouTube know that you guys like my content so that it can show it to more people. Helps the channel out a lot. And if you don't already, hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest of cruise news and you want to follow along all these ship deployment videos for 2022. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.